Minnesota Vikings have been around since 1961. And I just want them to win a damn Super Bowl before I die. Welcome to Before I Die with Judd and Jessi on Purple Daily and Score North.
What's going on, everybody? It's just one before we die. Once again, we're here to remind you it's not going to be this year. We're going to die. If you die this year, sorry. There's not going to be a Vikings Super Bowl. That's unfortunate. RIP your eulogy if you were planning to write that in. I'm Jessi Pierce, host of Bar Down Beauties podcast, writer for NHL.com, frequenter talking football here, though, each and every week with you guys on Before I Die. He is our designated sports dad, one of my favorite nostalgic characters in the world, Judd Zulgad. And then we've also got producer Ross over here, who likes the Vikings because of what, Ross?
The pain lets me know I'm still alive, Jessi.
It is an extra painful. I know we've had a couple days to mourn the Minnesota Vikings losses. They fall 7-7 on the season with a L in Cincinnati. Terrible, horrendous, awful. You guys, it's another. Should we have tanked? Should we have just let them tank as we had discussed? Again, the roller coaster of emotions that is being a Vikings fan has to be one of the most difficult. I'm kind of like, why didn't we just throw it all away? We didn't have to beat the Chiefs. We didn't have to think we were good. None of that had to happen. It should have all just been pretend.
They're not capable. Well, they lost to the Chiefs, but they did beat the Niners, which is equally as bad.
Yeah.
But they're not capable. Like, this team it tortures us through both and aggravates us through defeat and victory. I'm with you at 1-4. I was like, okay, that's fine. It's not going to be their year. Get a top, 5 draft pick, right? And then they rally, and Kirk gets hurt, and they rally some more. I think that the pain Ross is talking about is part and parcel of, like, this is a poster child season for this franchise. So, like, should they have tanked? Well, in retrospect, probably, but that wouldn't torture us enough.
That's true.
No, and it's kind of incredible, Judd. You talk about how does a team like the Vikings almost always stay in the middle? Yes, they have pop-up seasons. Historically, every 7 to 10 years, they're making a run to an NFC Championship game. But how do you stay stuck in the middle? Generally, because of seasons like this, you could have went in on the tank and had a for sure, top 7 pick, maybe even top 5 pick. And now, if you finish 7-10, there's still a chance you can pick somewhere around 10. But the issue with this team has always been this, Judd and Jessi, and we talked about this, I think, even before Kirk Cousins got injured. The talent on this team is too good to lose a lot of games. And we've kind of seen that with Josh Dobbs winning a few games. Now, of course, the team has struggled recently. But I'd like to think, well, maybe not like to think, but when you look at the schedule, guys, they could easily lose out and be 7-10. They could also easily win 2 of the final 3 and be 9-8. And then, and I'm sure we'll get to this, guys, start doing the math. The 7 seed might not even need 9 wins anymore. I mean, it's likely going to be 2 teams are going to find 9. It's also possible somebody could get in at 8 and 9. So I don't know what to say. It's just, it's classic Minnesota Vikings football. It would be, what do people always say? Oh, it's unbelievable. Well, it would be unbelievable if it was anybody else. But because it's the Minnesota Vikings, it's entirely believable.
It's a Minnesota mediocrity at its finest. There's another
terminal, right? We're stuck there. Purgatory.
It's another sports team in town that likes to do the same thing. Just loves to make the playoffs and then call it a day. That's good enough for them. Won't mention it though. You guys, sports fans, Vikings fans especially, love to take to X and vent out their frustrations. Now, I was obviously very heavy on X because there was another sports team playing Saturday afternoon, so I was monitoring Vikings takes. Fire KOC was trending as of Saturday, which is a little ridiculous. I get the frustration, and certainly we have criticized KOC plenty on this very show here, alongside other Purple Daily content, but he is 20-11 as a head coach. How ridiculous is it? I mean, yes, again, bad loss to blow a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter. Never a good thing. But KOC getting fired, come on, Judd, not happening.
People were hot. People were mad. Saturday was filled with fury. So I don't even know, 48 hours now after the loss, I don't know how many people would stick with that. Like, I think that was a lot of just anger. And look, he had a terrible game. He's coached some stinkers, clunkers this year. He's also coached some really good games, but this was among the bottom of the barrel. But yeah, I mean, he's not going to be fired. His job is in zero jeopardy. He's not on the hot seat. This isn't Dino, where our guy Dino Evison had a few years, and it's like, okay, what's going on here? But I think that the fans were so upset. Like, that's as upset as I've seen fans for a long time after just a single loss. And I mean, it's not a playoff loss, it's a regular season loss. But I think the back-to-back attempts at a tush push, which didn't make it, I think, Roscoe, that sent people over the edge. And yeah, you did see a lot of fire this clown now and get Brian Flores here. I wonder how many people maybe backed off that by the time the sun came up.
I gotta say, before we get into that, Ross, and I'll let you go. I mean, he's not Brandon Staley or Josh McDaniels. Like, I mean, Kevin O'Connell is not to that level. Like, that's where I just thought it was a little ridiculous. Like,
what do you know, Pierce?
I know.
What do you know, Zulgad?
Have you ever played football?
I watch every game.
KOC, we can be critical, especially this year, because we're seeing it more with the time management and some of the execution of the calls that he's making, or the plays, or the failed tush pushes. But I just thought it was ridiculous. I just laughed. I was like,
the tush push is harassment. It's workplace harassment. Quit hitting your coworkers in the ass.
Especially if you're tiny little man doing it, trying to push over your quarterback.
No pusher.
I mean, Ross, what did you think about the back-to-back failed quarterback sneaks? Absolutely ridiculous call, I thought, especially to have Brandon Powell back there trying to make that move. I have better strength, I think, than Brandon Powell probably does to make that effort.
Well, first off, on the fire KOC thing very quickly, I think that's a testament to KOC that he's used 4 different quarterbacks this year and people are still bitter that he's losing games. So in a weird way, that's a good sign that the Vikings are still in the mix and that people are upset. So I'm going to take kind of a contrarian or a different view on the failed tush pushes. I have no problem with the calls. To me, it's execution. Now, KOC explained why Brandon Powell was in there and not using CJ Ham or somebody else for the push. Again, mind you, the second one was probably aided by Bradbury getting trucked and Nick Mullins perhaps bobbling the snap a bit. I would say this, okay? If the Vikings turn around and hand the ball off to CJ Ham, or they hand it off to Ty Chandler and they get stuffed, what is the first complaint we would hear? Well, why didn't you just do the tush push? It works every time. So
no, I wouldn't have said that.
No, I'm not sure that you would, but I think
quarterback sneak, yes. Tush push, no.
Yeah, I think most
Ty Chandler would have done it. He would have successfully achieved it, because I love Ty Chandler and everything he does, so that would have happened.
It just seems like it's the easy thing for fans to do when a play call goes wrong, to automatically assume that the other play call would have worked. Now, I would say this. You got to give Ty Chandler one of those 2 chances, don't you? He had a hell of a game. He had a hell of a game. Give him a chance to pick it up. And then if you want to try that, maybe do it one of the 2 times on 3rd or 4th down. But with that said, guys, even though they failed, you have to execute that play one time. So at the end of the day, yes, maybe the coach didn't need to call it 2 times in a row, but the players have to execute that and pick up the first down.
Yeah, frustrated. Let's keep on my boy Ty Chandler, because I love me some Ty Chandler. I think you go back
we
a
all
couple
do
episodes.
At this point.
Yeah, well, a couple episodes ago, I was like, he's your guy. Forget Madsen.
Yep,
I just Ty Chandler, everything. I find the receipts. It's out there, because I was on board early on, mostly because I just am not that impressed with Alexander Madsen, but that's just me, right? 23 carries, 132 yards, 1 touchdown. There is no way he is not your starting running back going forward, correct, Judd?
I hope so. Yes, like I would say common sense is yes, but we've been all screaming for Ty Chandler for weeks now, months. And, Madison only was not the starter because he was hurt. He didn't get benched. He got hurt. So, I would like to say Ty Chandler is now the man. But whatever they see in Madison as far as, I don't know, an overall, because he can block more, I don't know what they see there. But, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, a football whiz, it basically takes 2 eyes to watch Ty Chandler and Madison run and say Ty Chandler has way more explosiveness and speed. And I compared it on Twitter to Madison is like an SUV. He's a 4-wheel drive. You take him out in the snow, and that's great. But when it's spring or summer, folks, we get the Corvette out. And we go around the lakes zipping around the lakes, going fast, looking good, right? That's Ty Chandler. So I don't know. I have not been able to figure out what the issue is. And what Ty Chandler did, quite frankly, didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me one bit. He looked like he could do that.
No, and I think the one thing we were worried about, and I brought it up, and I think mainly the coaching staff was worried about, the reason why maybe you didn't see him more is they were worried about blitz pickup and protections. Well, That wasn't much of an issue on Sunday for him, at least that I noticed. I'm sure he missed some, and I didn't look at any Pro Football Focus grades to see how he graded out in any pass protection, but I don't remember off the top of my head any glaring issues there. And to your point, Judd, the only reason why they were using him in that expanded role is because they were forced to use him, and I think the plan was to get Wongwu more carries, but Ty Chandler just didn't let that happen because he was having an incredible day. I'm more worried, guys, about a trend. For as much as we love B-Flow, I'm starting to get worried about the trend late in games where the Vikings love to blitz the first 3 quarters of the game or first 3.5 quarters of the game, but then inexplicably when the game's on the line, they're sitting back in coverage. And look, that might be the right call if you can trust your secondary to make the play and cover guys. I don't know if these guys have earned that right. It seems like every time you ask them to drop back into coverage and make a play in a key moment as of late, it's not happening. And I think that's going to be addressed. And at the end of the day, it could end up being that Denver game or the Cincinnati game that keeps the Vikings out of the playoffs. And those are the 2 games that recently come to my mind for you were dominating defensively for 3+ quarters, and then you sat back in a shell when it mattered the most. And that, of course, makes me think of the Donna shell. And now I'm kind of starting to feel queasy.
The touchdown pass to Higgins, though, if you go back and watch that, they actually did get pressure. Browning lofts that ball up. And that to me is also just such a fundamental breakdown because it's a jump ball. Evans gets beat. Okay, that's not good, but he got beat. But what's Mekhi Blackman doing? He literally was headed towards that play, and he stopped and decided to watch it. It was absolutely mind-boggling. If he goes over there at full speed, one, there's a chance that he could have actually shoved Higgins or helped shove him out of bounds before he comes down inbounds. 2, and it was a nice play, but when Higgins wheeled it around with the ball and extended it over the pylon, if Blackman hits him, that ball goes out, flying out of bounds.
Yeah, punch it out.
It might go through the end zone.
Correct.
Which then is a touchback. So, like, what are you doing, kid? Like, that's just hard work. That's not talent. That's just keep going. Play through the play. I am paid to watch the game from my couch. Mekhi Blackman is paid to play in the game. We should not be doing the same thing at the moment of truth.
I mean,
for the record,
yeah.
Oh, I got to clear myself up here, Jessi, before I get just ripped in the comments. I gave the safety sign when I meant to give the touchback sign, but I can't make it fit in this window.
That's fair. I feel better about that now.
Oh, I thought you were doing the safety dance from Men Without Hats. We can dance if we want to. We can leave. That's before Jessi's time.
We can leave those wins behind.
That.
Oh, you do know the safety dance? 7th grade, I think.
Dance, and if they don't dance, well,
that's
because
I was very into the 80s. That was a very big. I wasn't really like alive a lot of the 80s, but
blitz.
I was going to say you were born way too late because I was in 7th grade, which is before you were born, and I think that's when that song came out. That's a great song, though.
How about if your defense doesn't blitz, then they ain't no defense of mine?
That's true. Let's change that.
We can blitz if we want to.
Weird Al style. Judd, you had mentioned those jump balls, which have been a problem often this season, right? Do we have a size problem? Size doesn't matter, but sometimes it does matter. Let's say you've got Blackman against Sutton. Yeah, in football it's a little different. I mean, outside of Murphy Jr., pretty much every other corner has been beaten badly on those jump balls in key moments too. Blackman against Sutton in Denver, and you had Evans against Higgins, as you'd mentioned, on Saturday. Now, Higgins and Sutton are both listed at 6'4". You've got Murphy Jr. at 5'11". You've got Evans at 6'2", and Blackman at 6'2". As well, or no, 5'11". He's only listed at 5'11" as well. What do you do about that? How do the corners succeed in those situations where even if they might not have that size that matters in some situations and not in all, or they don't. What do you do? How do you fix that problem with the corners?
Well, the Blackman play in Denver I didn't like because I felt like he also sort of stopped on that play. Now, he really stopped on Saturday. And the coverage itself broke down. But, yeah, you know what, too? It's a good point. In 1998, in the game that Randy Moss torched the Packers at Lambeau, which was his first big, coming out game, in the 99 draft, I believe the Packers' first 3 picks by Ron Wolf in the next draft were all defensive backs. I think it was 2 corners and a safety who were 6 feet or taller. Mm-hmm. So that might be a thing. But I also think that there's ways when you go back and watch these plays where certainly there are alternatives to essentially, a teammate in Cincinnati standing and watching the play. If I remember correctly, in Denver with Sutton, it was Blackman might have mistimed his jump, but there was also a safety who could have helped but didn't help. But yeah, it's definitely something that I think the Vikings are going to have to address. And I like Blackman. I actually think he's good. I think he's going to become a good player. But that being said, there are some, you can't stretch him out. Mm-hmm. Size, Jessi, to your point, does matter in football, and especially the secondary.
Size does matter. Stretch it out. I just want to commend you both.
Well, you could no, I'm saying you could
getting through that
we're gonna
flawlessly.
We're going to stretch you out.
That's the screen grab for the podcast right there, Jessi. Judd doing this. There we go.
I'm 6'3".
It actually felt really good.
Yeah, it does.
Good stretch feels good every now and then, doesn't it?
I know. Ross, what do you think? Anything to add to the size mattering?
I think some of it obviously goes back to technique, and then to Judd's point, the one in Denver on Cortland Sutton, it looked like he just kind of quit playing the ball. He assumed it was going to go out of bounds, or maybe he lost track of Sutton. It's an interesting thing to talk about because in theory you would want to have tall corners, but if you start to look around the league, there's just not many of them. If you're a tall corner or you're a tall kid growing up, you typically end up playing wide receiver and not cornerback. But it does make you appreciate a guy like, even in the secondary, a safety who's a bit bigger, Ward for San Francisco, or even, as you mentioned, Jessi, Byron Murphy Jr. is a little bit bigger. In a perfect world, yes, I would always prioritize size at that position, but it's also easier said than done. Just because a guy's tall doesn't mean he can actually cover. But yeah, in a perfect world, give me a corner who's 6'2" and can go up there with those taller receivers and knock a ball away. It really stood out on Saturday with those Bengals wide receivers where the Vikings just looked so substantially smaller in the secondary.
And Jamar Chase was out for that drive.
Yes. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He
didn't have a great game, by the way. It was T. Higgins who did him in. All day long.
Exactly right. So, yeah, you definitely had advantages there, but it's worth examining. And to go back to what Ross said, Jessi, it's worth examining, too, what's going on in the fourth quarter. The Chicago loss, factually, they did just quit blitzing. And, I mean, that's a terrible loss. And Saturday, you gave up 21 points. You hadn't given up a touchdown since the aforementioned Sutton touchdown catch in Denver against Blackman. You hadn't given one up until Saturday when you hemorrhaged and gave up 21. So Brian Flores has done a great job. He does not get a pass for Saturday's loss. He's very much involved, as is the defense.
And except for the one drive in overtime, Judd, it was blitz, they tear you apart. Drop back in coverage, they tear you apart. They were one step ahead of you in the latter part of that game. Jessi, This one's for you. Tough day if you had T. Higgins on your fantasy football team and you left him on the bench.
Obligatory fantasy football mention.
You don't even have to ask. You know my team's not in it. I told you how bad it was. My team is just, I'm sitting on
what
the
was
outside
your final record,
playing
Jess?
in a loser's
What was your
bowl.
record?
I can't
What was your
even.
record?
I think I won 2 games. It was a tough.
Oh, okay,
nobody
my
would trade
draft.
with me. I was trying to fleece people. I couldn't even fleece anyone.
They wouldn't
just
trade
bad.
with you?
No, nobody would do anything with me.
Because of you or because of
They just wanted to watch me suffer. They just wanted me to deal with
Wow,
what I
that's
did.
cold.
It's a tough
That's
thing.
cold.
including the
it's-
husband?
No, nobody would do. Yeah, he would. He laughed. I sold him the rest of some of my players toward the end.
Oh, a little collusion, huh?
Oh, no, you can't do that.
That's collusion.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, that. Oh,
Yeah.
I hope
He's
the league
also
was
out now though,
pissed.
too, so don't worry about it. No, it's fine.
I want to know about people's
Why'd you help
bad.
him? Don would help me.
You shouldn't help him, by the way.
Well,
I want to know about
people's.
people's.
To us, it's like $350 in the pot, man.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
you know,
Well,
This is
let's go.
absolutely like you're going to have the Fed showing up at your doorstep after this.
You're
episode.
gonna lose fantasy football draft picks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna be
can't.
taken away.
Why is mommy going to jail? Because she cheated in fantasy football.
Hey, I was told by a wise man one time that you cheat all the time when you can get away with it, right? I'm just terrible and admit my cheating flaws.
It's only cheating if you get caught, or as George Costanza once said, it's only a lie if you believe it. No,
Yeah.
excuse me. It's not a
don't
lie
believe
if
it?
you believe it.
You
Remember,
just-
Jerry, it's not a lie if you believe
You're
it.
never going to be on Seinfeld, Ross.
No, never.
no.
One thing that was also not a lie, you guys, the Minnesota Vikings still have a chance to make the playoffs. 57%
Skull.
chance.
Skull.
Excuse me. Had they
Skull.
won on Saturday, could have been 84%. Fun fact, but they didn't. Win the next two, likely making the playoffs. The next two, however, guys, Detroit and Green Bay. Not loving that. And Nick Mullins expected to start against the Lions. Judd, what are we doing?
O'Connell said he's starting, which, by the way, I've had a week ago. I defended it. Like I don't love him, but I'm like, okay, he's the veteran guy. You're not going to put Jaron Hall in. Dobbs has been benched, but I'm sorry, you guys. After seeing the 2 picks and then potentially the pick 6 that was called back because of an offside, he is a loose cannon. Like he is, he is a Russian roulette QB, and I don't want to play with one of those. But clearly O'Connell does. I think it's very plausible, just to include the third game. I think it's very plausible they split with the Lions, and then the Packers game becomes the key game. But Green Bay's gone back in the tank, and everyone wants Joe Barry's job. He's become the Ed Donatel of the division. So 2-1, like I really do expect they are going to make the playoffs. And like Ross said, they're in the 6th seed. They're not even in the last seed. So I think because of their conference success and because of the fact they can win 2 of these last 3 without, I think, shocking us, I think they're going to be in.
If you're going to get 2 of the last 3, though, in my opinion, doesn't it feel like it almost has to be the next 2 that are at home? Because likely, even though Detroit may end up having the division wrapped up by week 18, the game still might matter to them for seeding, whether they're the 2 or the 3 or the 4. So I'm not sure Detroit's going to be resting anybody. Yeah. So it seems to me that the Vikings would almost have to win the next 2. It's not to say that they can't go to Detroit and win in week 18. Heck, Detroit went on the road in week 18 in a game that didn't matter to them last year and knocked off Green Bay. So it can be done. But logic would tell you if the Vikings are going to go 2-3 the final 3 weeks, it's probably going to be by winning the next 2 at home, right?
Lions, Packers, and Vikings. Can either of you explain any of those teams, though?
No.
Like,
There's
I
not
feel
one
like they're
identity for any of them. They don't have
I
an identity.
feel like they're dysfunctional Tinder dates.
I need to go on a few of those.
Yeah, Ross, we need you to do that for
I think
research
Tinder
purposes,
is open to
please.
some dysfunctionality, and I'm saying I think they're like dysfunctional relationships. Like I can't explain it. It would be one thing if I said, okay, I think Detroit is real, like for real. Which, by the way, they looked like they were at one time, and they blew the drawers off the Broncos. But look at that stretch of games where it got dicey, right? The Packers are a hot mess again now, and I watch the Vikings every single week, and I can't say that I know them. So like.
Here's how they are as Tinder dates.
Okay.
Detroit catfished you. Super hot girl,
I like
but
what you're
catfished
doing.
you. Shows up and you're kind of like, I mean, they're average looking, but they're definitely not what their profile
So I got a
had
fake
showed.
picture?
Got a fake picture.
Or an outdated one.
Green Bay showed up drunk to your date, so there's the hot mess there. Just orders,
Yes.
Beer
Love
after
this.
beer after beer, kind of a little unhinged, a little chaotic, but you're kind of into it at the same time. Like you're like, maybe I do like this. Maybe this could work out well.
And
maybe
then you got
she
a
is
chance.
a franchise girlfriend. I don't know. We're gonna find out. The Vikings are going to be your average. You love her personality, but you're kind of meh on the vibes in general. You love what the potential is there. You don't want to quite let her go because she's cute enough, but not like drop dead. And you're going to date her for a couple weeks and then ghost her probably at the end of the time when she can't close it out in the championship.
Finish it off. Tell me about the Bears. That's what I want to know.
The Bears,
good
you
point.
swipe right. You swipe whatever the opposite direction is. You ain't going on the first date with them.
So wait, so of your personalities for the Lions, the Vikings, and not oh my, the Packers, which one do I like the most then?
I'm locking down the Packers probably, let's be honest. That sounds way more fun.
True. That's a good Jess has a good point there.
Yeah.
It's got to
I
be
think
the
I'm with you.
Packers for the fun factor, or at least the Vikings, because you can take her or him home to the parents and not be entirely embarrassed.
This is true.
Yeah,
Where the
'cause Packers
Packers
can't go home
Yeah, exactly.
because she's got a drinking problem.
if she shows up to family Christmas already in the bag at most houses, there's going to be a little bit of judgment going on there.
Is there a chance that to go back to Detroit, is there a chance that they are actually catfishing you, Jessi, and they turn out to be a 16-year-old like kid who's just completely yanking your chain?
Now we're going Chris Hansen style. He's going to show up and
Yeah.
offer you a plate of cookies.
Well, no,
like,
I'm
have a
not saying
seat.
that you're no. I'm saying
What were your intentions?
Yeah. Hello there. Who are you? I'm Judd. Who are you?
Are you a
That's
dad?
not important, right?
I'm
that's
Judd
not important
Zulgad
right
from
now.
NFL.com.
That's not important right now.
Oh,
I thought we just
man.
get some pizza. Me and the Lions.
I brought this half bottle of Smirnoff with me too.
Exactly.
That's
Then why do you have a six-pack?
classic.
You had no idea the Detroit
good,
Lions
Jessi.
were 15 years old?
No,
That was
I know.
good, Jessi.
Thank you.
I appreciate those explanations. I think you're
Pretty
like
close.
I think you're spot on.
I'd like to
I
hear
think
what
you're
you
spot
guys
on.
think. I want you guys to drop them. What kind of Tinder dates are we getting?
Who are the
out of
Vikings?
NFC?
Did you sell the Vikings short? Is my question.
The
'Cause, like,
Vikings
you're
though are the
saying-
safest. It's going to be your safest bet.
Yeah.
Like they're comfortable where you are. Like it's gonna be fine. Again, Minnesota mediocrity always wins out. Like,
But we
it's
all know
just
your Packers
comfortable.
type. Like the
Yeah.
Packers type. You know, she's cute.
Oh yeah.
Little-
And she
Super
loves
chaotic.
hunting gear and circus peanuts, too.
Yeah,
That's the other
very
thing that she's a big
chaotic.
fan of.
Be careful about what that pronunciation.
Oh boy. Let's jump in, guys, to our comments from YouTube before our comments get out of hand.
Comments from YouTube.
Oh boy.
Circus peanuts, to be clear.
Peanuts.
Yep.
Here are your comments from YouTube. I got two of them for you today. From JG Berserker. The worst NFL rule, in my opinion, landing with your full weight on the QB. Judd, you made an astute point, and I saw this too. Daniil Hunter could have perhaps been called for this on Saturday, but he did a great job to remove himself from falling right on the quarterback, Jake Browning, during a sack. That's really not my question. Just wanted to say, Judd and I, great minds. Great minds think alike, they say. Question, though, kind of a repeat of last week. What is the worst rule in the NFL? You guys care to tackle this one? How about Judd? You want to go first? Worst rule in the NFL is?
There's so many. And we're going to add more because now we're going to eliminate the tackle where you grab the player by the hips and swing them around.
Yes. Yep.
Because we're worried about a technique that was basically not invented, but was used because of concern about concussions. So now how you're supposed to tackle, if they put that in, how you're supposed to tackle people or enforce a tackle, that's very nebulous. I have no idea. But there is one that's easily above the rest, and it's being examined, and I can only hope it's overturned. And it is the rule that bit Justin Jefferson in the butt in Philadelphia. That is when you fumble the ball out of the end zone, it goes to the opposing team at the 20. I have no idea whoever came up with that rule. You know why? So in other words, if you fumble the ball at let's say you fumble the ball at the 5, like you're running in and you lose the ball. If you fumble at the 5 and it goes sideways out of bounds, you just get the ball back at the 5. But if it somehow goes forward out of the end zone, let's say it gets punched. I've seen this before. It gets punched, it goes through the end zone, and then it goes out of bounds. It's your opposing team's ball at the 20.
Yeah. It makes no sense why defense gets such an advantage for
Who did
you
this?
almost scoring. It doesn't make any sense.
Who did this? Yeah, exactly right. Who came up with this rule?
It's also weird to automatically assume if that ball would have went into the end zone, either team could have recovered it if it didn't go out of the end zone. So just to automatically give it to the defense seems wild to me. So I don't hate that take at all, Judd.
And they cleaned up a portion of a rule that was similar. Long before you both were born, the Raiders were playing the Chargers, and it's referred to as the holy roller game.
Yes, yep.
Because the Chargers were ahead. It was the end of the game, and I believe it was Ken Stabler fumbled forward. If I'm not mistaken, Dave Casper, the tight end, pushed it into the end zone, and it was recovered by the Raiders for a touchdown. And the league's like, okay, that's sort of really hanky, and so you cannot now advance the ball like that. So it's still your ball, but you can't push it into the end zone, which was a fun play, but I understand the rule. But so why have we just allowed this defense, this thing of, well, you fumbled the ball forward, it went through the end zone, and now it's the opposing team. I've never read anything that makes sense.
You got anything worse than that, Jessi?
Defensive pass interference. Can I say that?
Oh, yeah. How so?
Right? You have quarterbacks that take advantage, Aaron Rodgers, namely, right? If you're going to go throw the ball deep because you know he's going to get an interference, the way that the NFL wants this game to be so pass heavy and so pass centric, it's not doing them any favors because now your defense can't even barely touch your receivers or your tight ends without potentially getting called for that. So it just seems incredibly frustrating. Again, as I'd mentioned, when the quarterbacks especially know that, with that rule enforcement too, offensive pass interference only leads to a loss of 10 yards from the previous spot. It just seems absolutely ridiculous. I hate defensive pass interference. It happens all the time. Take it out, fix it.
And in general, the better quarterbacks get the calls on that more often than somebody like Nick Mullins, right? I agree with you, Jessi. I've thought for years, let's just max that out. If we want to give them a bunch of yards, that's fine. College gives you a max of 15. Maybe the NFL should just give a max of 25. That's still a heck of a lot of field position.
Oh, yeah.
But also, again, remember when just a few moments ago I said you're assuming that or the defense or the offense would have an equal chance to recover a ball that was punched out of the 2 or 3 in the end zone. If you give a team a ball at the 1 yard line because of pass interference, yeah, more often than not, the wide receiver is going to catch the ball, but you're also assuming 100% that he would catch the ball, which just is not the case. So,
also allow taunting. That's the other. That's a personal. I just like
taunting?
chirpy.
Yeah,
taunting.
why not? Why not? Let's make it fun.
Game. It's a
Well,
game.
and they, on DPIs especially, they tried a couple of years ago because of that horrific miss in the Saints
challenge
playoff game to go to the challenge. That didn't work. But the problem too is there's no consistency. So it feels like of late they're actually allowing it to go more. Case in point, the Vikings game.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was Evans, and I tweeted this, and of course got torched by fans, but who cares? He grabbed the Bengals receiver. And yes, they were hand fighting, but he then just grabbed him, and he didn't get called for it.
Yep, and grabbed the jersey.
Yeah, and meanwhile, these yahoos now were trying to call offensive offsides because of what happened the previous week with Kadarius Toney in the Chiefs game. Like, there's no consistency to any of this crap. Nobody even knows what they're watching anymore.
I think on Red Zone yesterday, Judd, and this is just Red Zone, I think I caught 2 offensive offsides, which is fine. If it's truly offsides, call it, but I feel like the edict came down from the league since they called it for Toney. Guys, you might want to start calling this a little bit more so it doesn't look like we are after the Chiefs.
There have been, since 2000, Seifert had this in a tweet today. They have, in 2023, they have, I think they have 6 offensive offsides calls this year. The highest previously in a single season since 2000 was like 3.
And 3 of those are now in the last 2 weeks, at least from what I saw.
So, yes, it's ridiculous.
Here's one for you, too, that I think is really fun. And, Jessi, I'll let you start this time. This comes from Gerard Cilliers, 1909. I'm going to hold you 3 to it when our offense starts firing again, and this team goes to the NFC Championship game, or maybe Super Bowl, especially looking at our defense. Now, in fairness, that was before the game on Saturday, okay? In fairness, that was before Saturday's game. My question to you, if the Vikings go to the NFC Championship game this season, how the heck did it happen, Jessi Pierce?
It was a full moon and there was a sacrifice of some sort and some black magic because there's no way that's going to happen. Like, I get it. Offense sells tickets, defense wins games. And yes, the Minnesota Vikings have a very good defense this year. It's just, there's some weird black voodoo magic is the only way it's going to happen. There's going to be some luck. There's going to be some insane. We won't be able to believe it. I will not be able to believe it. I don't believe it happening. So it's hard for me to imagine how it possibly could because I'm just being realistic, guys. That's just insane. So yeah, if somebody's out there doing some black magic in the middle of the night, power to you. Maybe
Ouija
that'll
board.
do the trick. Yeah, right?
Judd, Jessi says witchcraft. You got anything better than that?
No, I don't. No. It's been a weird year. I don't think it's been that weird. By the way, I was off. Seifert's tweet, offensive offside flags since 2000. This year, it's been 18 of them. The previous high was 2020 and 2002 with 6. They've thrown 18 offensive offside flags.
And to me, that's what makes Patrick Mahomes, whatting about the call even more annoying, because it had been called this season before that. But I did notice yesterday and Saturday, they called it a lot this weekend. I'd love to see how many times it was actually called because, again, I know I saw it at least twice.
Do we want to bring up that Taylor Swift has only missed the Minnesota Vikings game and not any other
And her
Chiefs game?
You know what?
F-bomb, which was outstanding. Good for Taylor Swift.
Yes.
That
And
was
you know what?
awesome.
I blame some of you Vikings fans in the comments. Some of you who will comment on this podcast, you guys went to that show. Some of you probably went even twice. And now she spurned you.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Look what you guys did. What did you do wrong when you were there? What did you guys do to offend Taylor Swift?
I was there.
As a
I was
person
maybe
that
a
went-
little- having a good time.
I was delighted she didn't go.
Oh, I'm like,
Because-
you went to the Taylor Swift concert?
No,
what I
no.
thought he was
As a
saying.
person
You mean
that
that-
went to the
yeah.
Chiefs game, I was delighted she didn't go because there would have been a unnecessary layer of security that might have impeded my progress. So I was delighted she didn't show. But I mean, good for her. She was great. The fact they booed her on the jumbotron in Foxborough was hilariously funny. She seemed to get it.
Yeah.
Swifties, send your hate mail care of Jay Zulgad.
She's a talent.
What are you on the
She's a
Twitter, Jay
talent.
Zulgad?
At Jay Zulgad. She's a talent. And who's the kid now who's big? She's really young.
Sabrina Carpenter.
Nope.
the one that
Keep
was
going.
I have no idea. I wish
she's
I
got-
knew.
No, she's got the song about I want to get back at you or something.
Oh, yeah, it's on a TV commercial
Get
too.
even.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
on.
even-
Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah,
Sure.
she's talented too.
Yeah,
That's a great song. Kid can write songs.
Yeah.
If she indeed did write that song. That's
Do you
want
to sing it? You want to sing any
I
of it
can't
to
really
us?
remember it, but it's catchy. I love pop. I love pop tunes.
I think it's
like
on a
real-
phone commercial.
Yes.
Right?
But I love pop tunes. I like a good catchy pop song. I'm a sucker for it. And that's a good catchy pop song.
Big Hanson guy back
Seeing
in
you
the day.
tonight. It's a bad
Bop.
idea, right? That one? No, it's not that one.
No,
Seeing
that's
you
not
tonight.
that one. No.
It's a bad idea, right? Sorry. Okay.
No,
Let's
that's not too
maybe
bad.
before I die.
Hanson,
I'll stop
no,
singing.
I was never. No. Hanson was too kitschy for me.
Seems
Okay.
fair. All right.
Not a big Snowed In fan. That was their Christmas album.
Dude, I don't remember. The Bop's the only song I remember.
Eh, Have scientists figured out what an bop is yet?
But
In an bop, it's gone.
It was a terrible. That was a terrible brain. What's the
Earworm.
word? Earworm. Thank you. It was a terrible earworm. You couldn't get that damn song out of your head.
That's a secret nobody knows.
bop. Let's do our before I die. Stop.
Time now for the Before I Die crew to give us their Before I Dies.
Yeah.
Bop.
Anyway,
just let Jessi sing the rest of the. It's not a good song. Not a good
we
song.
wonder why people hate this show. Jessi sings
Who hates
too
the
much.
show?
Yeah,
Right.
if they hate the show, that's on them.
Who hates the show?
Never anybody. Ross, why don't you kick us off this week?
This one's going to be very unpopular. I said it earlier today in the hallways here of Score North. I am all for safety, okay? I'm not inviting bad things to happen. I am not. That's not what I'm doing here, okay? I want to be very clear about that. However, we need to dramatically reduce security at sporting events or just figure out a better way. Props to the Minnesota Twins who came up with like whatever deal it is where everybody can pretty much just walk on through, and if something goes wrong, they flag you over. But over the weekend, I really don't like to name names or call out people. The Minnesota Timberwolves basically tweeted, crowd sold, get here 8 hours, or crowd sold out tonight, get here 8 hours before the game or you might not make it. No, you guys figure out your security, and if you can't, just let us through. If somebody's going to do something bad, they can do it in the plaza. They can do it on the streets. They don't have to wait until they're in the stadium. You figure out your stuff and let me get to the game when I can get to the game. Thank you.
What's the Wolves' policy or what? I don't even know.
Honestly, I
tweets,
don't know.
I don't know what the policy is.
I don't know. The only game I went to this year, I kind of backdoored my way in.
I went to the game a couple weeks ago, and I don't recall an issue, but I never bring anything with me. I just have a phone and a wallet.
That's tweeted out. Now, you might be talking about a Wolves tweet. Jeff Municky, who's been there since
Jeff's the best,
one.
by the way.
Jeff always
Love
tweets
Jeff.
that, but I think Jeff's trying to prepare fans for the fact that if they have not come in a long time, there's now lines. Like Jeff's, I think Jeff's point is, for years you walked right through, and there were 10,000, 8,000 people here.
And don't get me started on entering Huntington Bank Stadium, because that's just as brutal, and shame on them because it's been that way for a half a decade now.
That's a mess. That is a complete mess. That's a different story. And part of the problem too is, and here's what I don't get. Okay, so it's weird. I don't think everybody understands that if you have an electronic ticket, you need to stick it in your wallet, in your phone.
Yes.
So like, there's nothing worse. Like at Huntington Bank, you'll get, and I was guilty.
The service goes bad,
like once or twice, and then I figured it out. Yeah, the service goes bad. So you're literally trying to get your ticket back up. But the thing is, which is another story about why we don't have Wi-Fi that does not have any problems now. And if that's the school's fault, get your act together. Among the many things you've screwed up, your Wi-Fi needs to be working at maximum all the time. That pisses me off.
In this day and age, to go to a sporting event where you can't access your phone during a game is incredible.
Yeah. Now, when I was on the Packers beat in 2003 and 4, they were, if you had a Verizon phone, which I did at the time, at that time, they would jam the signal throughout the stadium because that's what the coaches' headsets worked off of. And they didn't want you to sap away from, but this was 20 years ago. So like,
when Wi-Fi wasn't a thing, we still had
Mr. Sherman. Mr. Sherman, roll Favre right.
They would jam the signal for the fans and schleps like me. Very, very disconcerting. All right, before I die, here's my rule. Before I die, and this is for football bowl games, if you have your quarterback leave the team before the bowl game will not be played. I heard about another the LSU
Avocado?
kid who won the Heisman. He is now left, and so he's not going to play in the bowl game because he's going to be in the draft, which is fine. I don't give a crap. Okay, but this is ridiculous. Like, we literally have all of these bowl games that are going to be played without significant players from the teams whose season just came to an end. It's totally their right to quit, but it's totally my right to kick the team out of the bowl and fold the bowl game. It's useless. It's useless. I mean, the Gophers are going to have, God bless them, Cole Kramer just wants to get his life started. He just wants to go to get married in Rochester, I think, go to Phoenix, start his life with his new wife. It's just awesome. They can work on a family. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't really care, but good for you, Cole Kramer. But now you're going to play a game in Detroit. The Gophers should have been told, you know what? No, we're not going to play this game. You guys stay home. See you next year. This isn't worth doing anymore.
The opportunity, Judd, though, to be the first ever 3-time Quick Lane Bowl champions, that has to mean something.
I'm just saying, all of these kids aren't going.
I couldn't even say that without giggling myself.
Kick that, just shut them down. As that guy says on that kitchen show, shut it down. Shut this team down.
You talking about John Taffer?
John Taffer.
Yeah.
I know there's bowl game obligations, but in a perfect world, do you know how I would handle this game? I think they kick off at 2 on the 26th. if I was PJ in the squad, I would say, okay, we'll be there at about 8 p.m. on the 25th. We're going to spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with our families.
And then
fly
I'd
out
kick 'em
early in the morning.
And then if I was the bowl people, I'd kick them out. I'd say, we're not playing the bowl this year. It's a bowl in Detroit.
The day after Christmas.
Before
Jessi,
I
take us
die,
home.
I will accept that my kids will not appreciate any of the fun things I try to do, and I will not let it
Oh,
bother me
no.
like it does. My goodness, you guys. I try
what?
to do all these really cool Christmas activities, and I'm all excited about it, and there's just no excitement from them at all. So then I'm all pissed off, and I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, we went and saw the holiday train last week, and the Canadian Pacific holiday train. And you could have thought that we took these kids to like the dump with how excited they were. Just no, I was pumped. I was like, let's take pictures, and we got music, and it's nice, and there's lights, and it happens constantly. But you know what? I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to continue to do it, but I'm not going to let it ruin my Christmas spirit, you guys. That's what I hope to do before I die.
Holiday train make multiple stops, or is it
Yes.
only
Yes,
Okay,
multiple
because
stops.
okay, because I
stopped-
know. Go
It
ahead. I'm
stopped
sorry.
literally down the street from me
In St. Louis
last
Park?
Monday in St. Louis Park.
That's where we were.
And fortunately, Dawn and I had plans because she informed me when we saw it that she was going to make me go. And I'm like, I'm so glad I
It
didn't
was
know
a
that.
gorgeous night out that night.
I saw the train because we were actually trying to beat it to the bar, and we didn't beat it. We couldn't beat it. I actually had to go around it. It was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And it looked very, very nice. I gotta say, Jessi, I'm gonna side with the kids on this one. In fact, if you would like, because of my lack of maturity, feel free to run your ideas past me for the kids, and I will tell you, holiday trains, old school, don't like it.
Come on.
Here's the
Lights,
thing,
bright
Jessi.
lights.
As somebody who loves the Christmas season and the holidays, Judd pokes fun at me because I won't be seen for like 2 weeks here shortly. I can't possibly come to work the day after Christmas because my seasonal post-Christmas depression sets in.
Sure.
I need a few days to get back and feel okay with the real world. Your kids, as they get older, will appreciate more of that stuff. When they're younger, it's still all about the presents.
I don't know.
But
what
once
it's all
they
about for them.
once
I
they
really don't.
get
Dude, I'm
more of the
54.
mad at me
I
because
don't-
I can't take them sledding. I'm like, I can't
I'm
control the
54.
weather.
I don't appreciate it.
No, come on.
That's
I
why I
wanna
didn't
go
get you a Christmas gift.
I'm gonna make them go to CHS. I really still want to go to Bentleyville. Like these
Oh.
are things for me. Let's just
You gonna get to
Yeah,
Sam's in
you know what?
Somerset?
They're for me.
You know what?
I love Sam's in Somerset. We're doing that next
great.
week.
It's great.
So
You know what?
Maybe I'll see you there.
yeah.
Get a babysitter and drag your husband along and leave the kids out of
I'm
this.
just gonna start. This is why I do things by myself. I go camping by myself. I do hikes by
Yeah,
myself.
then do
because
it by
nobody
yourself.
Yeah, but then who's going to take
You
my
know what?
pictures?
I get
Who is
great
going to take
enjoyment.
my pictures?
I get you. Nobody takes more selfies than you.
Selfie, yeah.
And plus, you're outgoing. Just ask somebody. Hey,
this
can you
is
take my
true.
picture here? Like I saw Kirsten Call shooting your stand up on Saturday at the Wild game.
It
You
happened.
ain't afraid to ask people to take
I'm
your
not.
picture.
I'm not.
But I mean,
These
these kids didn't ask to be taken to these things. I don't blame them one bit. You're going for you, which by the way is great. I do things for me. You know what? I don't care what I don't need Dawn there. I don't need Dawn to go. I'm happiest when I'm alone.
Speaking of taking selfies, you know how I lost my phone in that pond because I was trying to take a selfie a couple weeks back?
Yeah, and the rice
My
didn't
kids-
work,
my
right?
kids, the other good thing about my kids is they rip me without intentionally trying to rip me. Like they'll just say things. I'm like, that was rude, but it was true. So I have a picture of this fall pond as the background on my phone, and my oldest saw it, and he was like, "Oh, is that one your phone fell into?" And I was like, "No, you jerk! It's just a picture of a
Good
pond.
for him. He's right. Oh, I like
It's
it.
just
Giving some
snipers."
lip to
And he
mom.
was like, "Okay." I was like, "Thanks," but yeah.
That's good. Yeah, just go by yourself. CHS Field. Go soak it in. Take
That
some
one
pictures.
I might do by myself.
You know what else you could do at Glow and Sam's Christmas Village, Jessi?
What?
Get you a drink on.
You can drink on. Yeah, they
can get
serve,
your drink
they serve
on.
drinksies there.
Then to bring the husband and tell him to stay sober.
There we go.
See, now that I agree
Now we're-
with. So you
now
have a
we're-
ride
Now
home.
we're moving. Now
And
we're
you do
moving.
have, and you will have a brief, very brief, but your window will be when your kids start to turn driving age, and you can go
Yes.
get sauced,
So good.
and they'll want to go with you because they can then drive.
I'm starting to feel like I'm the Green Bay Packer Tinder girl, but I think this is probably right about where we're at. So
I don't think she
Very-
has kids.
Very
true.
quickly before we roll, Mrs. Number One Green Bay Packer fan and Green Bay Packer Tinder gal Jessi. A very happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you two, even though Judd seemingly doesn't like the holiday, nor does he care to be with either one of us.
I like
Happy
Christmas.
holidays. Happy holidays to you both.
I like Christmas fine.
Happy holidays to everybody who consumes this podcast, but any Score North podcast. So thank you all very much and have a wonderful, safe, and happy holiday season.
Let's shorten up that time off, though, folks. Let's get it down to 1 week, okay?
I'll see you on June
Pick
2nd.
one holiday, New Year's, Christmas. You don't get 2 weeks.
I'll see you on January 2nd, Judd.
I'll see you next year. God, classic.
You're so funny. Is that it? Are we out?
That's it. You sounded like you wrapped it, so I was
Okay.
assuming that was.
Well, you didn't give the Hennepin thing.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's it. Couple of games in a row in Hennepin County.
There you go.